Hello, everyone, and welcome to another ASUG affiliate webcast. My name is Anna McMorrow, Sales Engagement Coordinator here at ASUG headquarters in Chicago. Today's webcast, How Vision Service Plans Streamlined its Order to Cash while simplifying its PCI compliance, is brought to you by PayMetric. Today's webcast is being recorded. That recording and the accompanying slides will be posted to the ASUG website, and all registrants will receive an email with a link to those materials. Our speakers today are David Stokes, Senior Manager of SAP for Vision Service Plan, and Jennifer Rossi, Vice President of Channel Sales with PayMetric. I'd like to remind our audience members that you can submit questions at any time during the presentation by clicking the purple Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And now I'd like to turn it over to David.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is David Stokes. I'm a Senior Manager here at VSP, responsible for the order to cash and financial processes systems in SAP. I've been with VSP for 20 plus years, and the last 5 years responsible for the SAP team. Jennifer?
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Jennifer Rossi. I'm with PayMetric. I operate as part of our solutions engineering team at PayMetric and also work with our partners and alliances. I've got close to 20 years experience in SAP implementations focused in electronic payments, billing, and accounts receivable. So for today's agenda for our webinar, we're going to take you through some of VSP's, the overview of the company, some of their electronic payments requirements that led them to the PayMetric implementation and why they chose PayMetric to help fulfill those requirements, some of the benefits they achieved and key learnings, and then what's next on the horizon for them. And then we'll open up the webinar for Q&A. And David, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. So VSP Global is the parent company of 5 different lines of business. Our vision insurance is the largest portion of that. We also have an eyewear company, or several eyewear companies, including Marchon, Altair, and Allure, that operate in, well, they do business in 100 different companies and have distribution centers in 18 different countries. We also have our optics group that has a lens distribution business, as well as lab services where they grind and style lenses. We have practice solutions companies, Eyefinity and OfficeMate, that do practice management software in eye doctors' offices. And most recently, we've added a retail channel for our e-commerce business, and we have a number of eye doctor clinics at some of the larger companies that we do business with. For our vision insurance company, we have 80 million members that are VSP members, and there are roughly 34,000 participating doctors that provide services to those members. We're headquartered here in Rancho Cordova for all lines of business. And we were founded in 1955 by a group of eye doctors at the time. Here are a few of the frame styles that we offer. We also have other lines like Cole Haan, BB, and Etro. So our journey into SAP, we originally procured SAP in 2009. This was the same time that we were acquiring the Marchon company, and they had been using SAP for probably 7 years before that. So we ended up going with SAP as our ERP solution across all of our lines of business. We initially implemented the SRM and HCM solutions back in 2010. And then did a big bang for all of the eyewear companies across 15 countries back in February of 2011. That was a huge, huge effort for us. 18 months later, we implemented financials and consolidations for the other 3 lines of business. And since then, we've had a number of different projects, including adding that fifth line of business, completely redoing the order-to-cash process for our practice solutions companies. And we've implemented individual member billing for our vision care insurance company. The big project this year that we've undertaken is the client billing for the vision care insurance. This will bring the bulk of the revenue, roughly $3.7 billion, off of our legacy systems into SAP. We've also implemented HANA as a sidecar solution, implementing the COPA accelerators to improve things like that, and starting to move a lot of the BI processes and VPC processes over to HANA as well. Our current landscape, we run everything pretty much off of a single instance of ECC, and we've implemented the AFS solution, which is the apparel and footwear solution. We needed it for the style, color, size, grid functionality that's provided with the AFS solution. We also have the SRM, MDM, and Ariba implemented, the APO, which is the S&C and demand planning, along with live cache. And then, of course, BPC, we're running 7.5. That's in the process of being upgraded and moved over to HANA. And then BW, likewise, is in the process of being upgraded and moved over to IBM Blue first initially, and then to HANA eventually. HCM does run on its own separate ECC instance for confidentiality issues or reasons. And then we have PO that we use for all the EDI and integration to legacy systems. For a payment acceptance, payment processing application, we had a few key requirements. First and foremost, it had to integrate with SAP, and then it had to reduce our PCI scope, which is to say we did not want any credit card information in our SAP environment at all. And we wanted to try and keep that as simple as possible. And then we had to be able to accept payments securely across the whole enterprise, so we wanted to be able to have a standard solution that everybody could implement. Excuse me. We needed to be able to take direct payments, deal with open items, and then also allow for automatic recurring payments. And one of the additional requirements that we had was we needed to be able to allow for a default credit card to be used by one company and have a default credit card used by another company. You know, some doctors want to pay one of our companies with one of their visas and the other with another visa. And of course, we wanted to keep the cost down and reduce fees wherever we could. And at that point, that's when we chose PayMetric.
So VSP chose PayMetric to help them with those requirements, and how we solve for those is we have two main ways that we solve gaps in SAP as far as electronic payment acceptance is concerned. The first and very important is tokenization around payment cards. So anywhere where there's an entry point for any of your processes, whether it be on your SAP ECC system, an e-commerce platform, an electronic bill presentment and payment, as part of receivables management, wanting to accept payments after they've already been invoiced. The first thing we're always going to enable for companies is the ability to tokenize those payment cards. And tokenization means that we're creating a representative value for that raw payment card data, so that you're never storing or exposing the payment cards within any of your environments, your SAP environment or any supporting environments that link to SAP. So that's the first thing that we did. The second thing is that we provide integrated connections out to payment processors. So SAP provides for the hooks for the communication, but without a solution such as PayMetric, you'd be writing and maintaining all of your integration for authorization and settlement processes. So those are the two big areas that PayMetric provides, as well as some other things that I'll cover at the end of the webinar to help meet the requirements for electronic payment acceptance in SAP. And just a little bit about PayMetric, for those of you that don't know much about us, we're headquartered in Atlanta, right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. We started way back in the late 90s when the start of SAP started to grow. Since then, our gateway is processing over $30 billion of transactions. We're a very large payment gateway. We have currently approximately 5 billion tokens that I just mentioned, those representative values. We're storing close to 5 billion payment cards on behalf of our customers at this point in time. We do operate globally. Our reach exists out to about 65 countries at this point. We operate in all currencies. 1 in 5 Fortune 100 companies is using PayMetric at this point, so our reach into enterprises is pretty significant for companies who are accepting electronic payments. We have a very high customer retention rate, a world-class service and retention organization. So that's a little bit about who we are. And with that, I'm going to turn this back to David.
Great. So for our PayMetric implementations, as Jennifer mentioned, we started with focusing on tokenization. Our practice solutions company was one of the first implementations of that, and what we ended up doing there was basically having PayMetric. They came in, they worked with us to get our requirements and help implement the solution where they created the integration using their Intercept solution to allow for basically a hotkey within SAP so that whenever anybody tried to type in a credit card in that field in the customer master, it would go out to PayMetric, get that token, and then push back a token into SAP. That also allowed then for direct payments and auto recurring payments as well with that implementation. About a year and a half later, we implemented essentially the same solution with one of the optics businesses where we're selling lenses to doctors, and the doctors needed a way to be able to make payments via credit card. So they're essentially using the same solution where the doctor would call in to the accounts receivable rep. That rep would take the credit card information over the phone, go to key it into the SAP solution, and either make a payment directly or store the card for future automatic payments. The big implementation and the big project that we ended up having and implemented was our individual billing for insurance. We started to offer, with the whole healthcare changes that went into place, we ended up having a huge need to be able to offer members individual plan for vision insurance. So on our member portal, we had to allow for them to be able to make payments through our portal, take that credit card information. So on the portal itself, we've implemented an iframe provided by PayMetric that essentially does the same thing. It's an iframe. It intercepts the credit card information, brings back a token, does the authorization. They can make a payment directly off of that portal, a one-time payment, which then gets integrated to SAP, our SAP solution, or they can set it up for recurring payments, and then likewise that information gets passed through to SAP. They've built a REST service, web service to pass the information from the portal into SAP once they've gotten the information back from PayMetric. With that, we also had a couple of partners that had a similar need. They're bundling insurance, so they bundled our vision care insurance with other health insurance and sold it. So they needed a way to be able to likewise pass off of their portal, have their members basically pay, and then pass that information on to VSP and store the credit card so that we could do either the one-time annual billing or the recurring billing, recurring monthly billing. So we've implemented a couple of those partners as well during that time frame or along with that project. Following that, we had our eyewear company that wanted to use the same solution as the others, so we implemented that for them. And then the Altair eyewear company wanted to implement a portal solution, so they utilized the same solution that we built for individual billing to integrate with their portal. The last thing we did was a complete rewrite of the Practice Solutions order-to-cash process, and during that, we implemented Biller Direct and integrated the PayMetric solution into our Biller Direct application. Some of the benefits that we've achieved through all of that is allowing our providers to have more flexibility in how they're able to pay. In the past, a lot of it was either just through ACH or they were limited with calling in. Now having portals that gives them a little more flexibility there. We also eliminated a lot of the manual payment application. That's definitely one area where we've heard back from a lot of our AR teams that they're spending a lot less time manually maintaining credit card data. We used to have, keep information and faxes in locked closets. We've eliminated all of that by having this solution and maintaining the tokens in SAP. And this has been a corporate standard for us, so it's kind of the directive from our Chief Financial Officer that this was the way we were going to do this for anything that integrated with SAP. So we've eliminated a lot of the one-off solutions here. This has significantly simplified our audit support and PCI compliance. I can tell you firsthand, as one of the people who gets pulled into a lot of those meetings, this has made my life a lot easier. Short story here, we had a PCI guy come in, and they brought one in, and he had scheduled an hour-long meeting with me to talk about what we'd implemented. I went in, I was able to explain how the iframe worked, how SAP works, how we don't store any credit card information. The meeting lasted about 10 minutes, and I was out of there. Again, a week ago, I was having the same conversation with our internal audit, and it was essentially the same kind of discussion. Now their focus is on the other infrastructure, web portal, the stuff that surrounds the iframe, but from a SAP or a iframe perspective, PayMetric perspective, they're great. And certainly having the auto AR functionality has reduced collections issues, which is good. And we've been able to do some of our own customization in terms of decline notifications, expiration notifications and reporting, and then payment notifications. Some of our key learnings were to standardize the implementations as much as possible. So once we got the initial solution in for Practice Solutions, we really haven't had to change it much. We've had maybe one customization, like I was mentioning, with the default credit cards. But other than that, it's been a pretty standard across the board. And likewise, we've used the REST service to make it an easier implementation for all the portals as well. They have one way of talking with us, and they're able to utilize that in their different portals. The COE, so my team is responsible for the relationship with PayMetric, so anything else that's going on, pretty much it funnels through us so that we can incorporate it into our release schedule and just make sure that nobody's doing anything that's going to impact any of the other businesses. We have been able to create some external correspondences. That wasn't something that's provided. We ended up having to do that ourselves. For us, one of the big challenges was doing a conversion from one of our existing vendors that was maintaining credit card information for us in the past. and getting that moved over. Obviously, they're concerned about PCI compliance, so we needed to get the lawyers involved, and it was a pretty significant challenge. But once we were able to get the data, PayMetric was great to work with. They helped us get it loaded without too much trouble. One of the things that doesn't work well is partial payment clearing, but we were able to get that to work with some additional customization there. What's next for us in the PayMetric space? This year we are adding one more partner towards the end of the year for the individual billing. We're targeting 3 more partners in 2017 and kind of expect that to grow like that from here on out. We're also implementing XI Updater right now too. The business one did an analysis and a cost-benefit analysis on what's happening with expired cards and cancellations of individual members because of the expired cards or because of changes to their cards, moving to chip technology and whatnot. And they feel like we can get a 25% return through this XI Updater. That's kind of what they're targeting. And as a result of that, that would end up paying for this in no time at all. So that project's underway, and we hope to implement that with our July release.
Okay, so all the benefits that David was talking about is exactly why customers choose PayMetric for their electronic payment acceptance in SAP. When you think about, first of all, securing your payment card information, this can help reduce your time and money that you're spending with PCI compliance of up to 70%. So it's all about reducing the scope of your PCI environment. So we have ways to take you through that. We take you through all the channels, make sure you understand every channel where payments are being accepted, how you can make that more secure, and eliminate those areas from PCI scope. Obviously, on the connection with payment processors. Again, we help streamline your whole order-to-cash process with those integrated connections, real-time authorization calls, being able to send additional data out on settlement calls directly to a processor that get you lower interchange fees. A lot of that connection ensures that you're not doing manual work and you're not storing payment cards on paper and keeping them offline to use offline systems, so it's all automated. So streamlining your order-to-cash by up to 25%. And then also optimizing the process. I talked a little bit about reducing the interchange fees, but also we provide reconciliation reporting that can eliminate a lot of manual time you're spending, other reports and enhancements around payment acceptance processing. So you can reduce a lot of the manual effort that you're spending by about 50%. And just to recap some of our capability, again, when you think of PayMetric, you want to think of us as kind of 2 sides of our house. 1 focused on payments and then 2 focused on security. And again, on the payment side, we not only facilitate electronic payments for your sales order process in your SAP ERP system, you also can accept payment against open invoices, receivables management, and that is not native functionality to SAP. So this is functionality that we've delivered that allows you to accept those payments against open invoices, as well as down payments and recurring payments. So if you've got recurring subscription type billing, milestone-based billing, we can help you set all that up so it can be paid for automatically via a payment card token that's stored on an account. Payments via a web channel or e-commerce channel is also supported. We've got several, I'm going to say close to 20 enhanced reports that we've built over the years that help you manage your way through the payments process. Any and all reporting, different work lists that you can use that help facilitate shipping processes even. It's all an integrated process in SAP, and we've got those reports and work lists to support that process. Settlement reconciliation. Any of you that are part of a general accounting or general ledger type group know that it's important to tie on a daily basis what you're settling with credit card actually matches to what you receive as part of your bank reconciliation process. We've got some enhanced reporting that matches at a transaction level all the way out to your processor, so we can identify discrepancies for you quickly and train you how to deal with any of those discrepancies so you're funded for exactly what your daily settlement program includes. You can store payment card tokens on customer accounts, and we've got functionality to help you do that. If you've got customers that are working with you in a recurring basis, it is acceptable and within PCI compliance to store tokens on a customer master account. Level 2 and Level 3 data. If you've got requirements for accepting procurement cards, we've got a way to send additional data as part of SAP settlement program. It's a gap in SAP natively. It does not send the additional data for Level 3, which includes sales order and line item detail information. That additional information qualifies you for a significant reduction in interchange fees. So we do that analysis for customers all the time. It can be a significant level of savings that some companies just aren't even aware of. We do have the ability also to provide web AR capability if you want to allow customers to pay open invoices online. We've got the ability to support that for you. And as David was mentioning, one of our newer products is what we call Card Updater. And that's where customers, again, who are doing recurring transactions, who store customer payment card tokens on account, we can facilitate getting updated payment cards as things expire without you having to go back to your customers to get that information manually or campaign. So it reduces the number of declines that will happen when those cards expire. We can go out and get the updated card on behalf of the customers. On the security side, again, just as important as the payments processing side, we talked about tokenization to eliminate having cardholder data in your environment. And again, a token is just simply a representative value that we create and send to your environment, and then PayMetric holds the raw card data in our secure database. We work across anything in your environment, your SAP system, any e-commerce platforms. If you've got a legacy system that you might be transitioning from, we can also help keep that system secure as you're transitioning into a new SAP ERP system. So tokenization and what we call our intercept process actually is what allows you to reduce your PCI scope or PCI cardholder data environment. Point-to-point encryption is a term that you may or may not heard of. This is something that we offer on the security side that is mostly helping to keep call center environments in PCI compliant, where we actually have a secure PIN pad where information is entered. So any laptop or PC that you might be using in your network, it keeps your network secure. So that's something that is becoming very popular as far as enabling PCI compliance within a call center. IVRs, payments over the phone. That technology is still being used by many, many companies. We can also help ensure that that channel is also secure. Any file transfers you might be doing where you're sending information from, it really doesn't matter, point A to point B, or if you're receiving information, we can help tokenize data within that file transfer process. Our tokenization actually extends out not only to payment cards, but really any sensitive data that you might be storing. Think bank accounts and social security numbers. Many, many companies now are taking on efforts to secure that type of information that they're storing across customer master, vendor master accounts, even in HR records, some of that information. So the same service that we provide for payment cards and that same technology is also being used to secure any PII or personally identifiable information. And the last thing that's important on the security side is fraud. Fraud, particularly on e-commerce channels, is becoming bigger and bigger in the United States. It's becoming more of a concern for a lot of companies. we have the ability and pre-integrated solutions to the top fraud scoring providers in the U.S. Automatically pre-built, so that when you're doing an authorization against the card, we can also facilitate a call out to a fraud provider that can also send back a fraud score. Based on that fraud score, we'll work with you to determine what you want to do with that sales order. Put it on hold, push it through. So that's something that's a growing challenge for a lot of companies. How do you deal with fraud on your e-commerce channels? So that kind of wraps up at a summary level our payments and security offerings on the PayMetric side. So we hope this was helpful for you in learning about electronic payment acceptance in SAP. And with that, I think we will open up the floor for some questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Jennifer and David. We did have several questions come in during the presentation, so I'm going to go ahead and kick us off here. The first question, does VSP have to pay a monthly fee to PayMetric based on the number of credit card transactions? I'm going to go ahead and show you that question.
And yes, we pay. It's actually quarterly, and it's based on a range of transactions, yes.
Perfect. And then along the same lines, how much did it cost VSP to implement PayMetric?
I don't have an exact number, but I do know that we did have, at the time, PrimeSys came out, and they did help us with the implementation. And then likewise, they have been out or worked off-site remotely to help us with subsequent implementations, and it's been a huge advantage having their help in that.
Great. Next question, do you take payment cards in a retail setting?
Not a brick and mortar. The Altair web portal is really retail.
And I'll add into that, David, that we do have some retail customers. We do a lot of online retail, e-commerce retail channels, but we do have integration to point-of-sale devices, and we do have customers that are operating in a point-of-sale capacity as well.
Okay, great. Next question came in earlier during the presentation. Does this work on the SAP S/4HANA platform?
I can take that one. Yes, PayMetric is fully functional on the SAP S/4HANA platform if that's what you're planning to implement. And we are going through our certification solution with SAP currently.
Great. And another audience member wondering, how does your tokenization work?
So tokenization works. There's two key steps as part of tokenization, whether you're in the SAP environment or maybe an e-commerce environment. And the first part of it is that we intercept the data. And we do that in a variety of technical ways depending on the payments channel. But the first thing you want to know is that we intercept the data so that it doesn't hit that system at all. So it's coming directly to PayMetric. Once we have the raw payment card data, we generate a token via our tokenization service, and we return that token to your environment. At that point, once the tokenization is back in the environment, the process for processing that payment, typically doing an authorization then goes forward.
Perfect. One question that just came in, what was your team size to implement PayMetric, and then what was the time frame for the first cycle?
I think that particular portion of it consisted of it'd be a project manager. There was an FI functional person. We had I think there were 3 PrimeSys team members on site for roughly, I want to say 3 weeks, and then probably another 2 months after that for the testing, the different stages of the testing, and then the project go live.
All right, perfect.
One other clarification there. Oh, Anna, can I add really quickly there? One other clarification. We do have, I know David was talking about PrimeSys. PrimeSys is now part of PayMetric again, so we just refer to them as PayMetric Professional Services. So we do have a team of payments experts that do our implementations. Typically, it's remote consulting. We don't come on site too often, sometimes to do a design or maybe at go live, but we do have our own professional services team, just known as PayMetric Professional Services.
Okay, great. I'll take this opportunity just to remind our audience members, we have a little bit of time left, so if you do have a question for Jennifer or for David, now is the time to utilize that purple Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. The next question I'll throw to you guys, do you see the last 4 digits of the credit card in the token?
Yes, we do. As part of our tokenization service, we've got a lot of different tokenization formats, but most commonly the last 4 digits of the payment card are retained in the token. And that's for usability and reporting purposes, so that if you're running reports or speaking with the customer, you know what the card type was in the last 4 digits.
All right, perfect. And then another audience member wondering, besides the token information returned from PayMetric, is there any other information returned, such as alert, fraud, issue with the card?
Great question. So it's important to note with the PayMetric process, our tokenization and authorization are completely separate processes. So talking about tokenization, when we do the tokenization, we will initially do a validation on the card number to ensure that it is in fact a correct Visa card number, for example. But when we generate the token, we're not doing an authorization against that token at that point. So the tokenization process happens first. Now, when we facilitate the authorization includes a couple different things that happen. One, it's authorizing the card, making sure that it's a valid card, that there's valid funds. We're validating that card verification value, that 3 or 4 digit number. We're also doing address verification if that's part of a customer's requirements. So we're doing that as part of a standard authorization call. If fraud is added, as I mentioned, we do have the ability to connect directly to some of the top fraud providers that are out there. And so that process happens at the time of authorization. So you're doing both processes where you are authorizing against the card, and then we're sending it out for a fraud score. So the card could be valid, and you could get a successful authorization, but it may come back with a questionable fraud score, and at that point, you may want to put the order on hold until that's investigated. So I hope I clarified that kind of 2 separate processes, tokenization first, followed by authorization, and then additional fraud checks if that's what a customer needs.
Yeah, perfect. Audience members, we do have a couple minutes left. We'll probably end up giving you a little bit of your hour back here. I have one question left in the queue, so now's your chance to enter your question if you're holding anything in reserve. So Jennifer, the question here, can anyone in the environment see the raw credit card data? Almost nobody can see the raw payment card data. We do allow in our payment gateway the ability to detokenize a card. And so that is a very secure process. Typically only 1 or 2 people in an organization, and it's well documented as part of your PCI compliance process, are able to see and detokenize a card. That could be needed in case of a dispute or chargeback type situation, but typically nobody will have access within the SAP environment directly. And then outside in what we call our XIPay gateway, there's usually 1 or 2 users, and that's about it. All right, perfect. That looks like that's all the time we have for questions. Audience members, if you do think of further questions later on, feel free to reach out to our speakers or to contact affiliates at asug.com, and I'll be sure that those questions get sent on to the appropriate speaker. But for now, thank you, Jennifer and David, for a great webcast. On behalf of ASUG, I'd like to thank PayMetric, as well as all of you who took the time out today to attend this webcast. Once again, the recording and slides from today's program will be posted to the ASUG website, and all registrants will receive an email with a link to those materials. And with that, I'd like to close today's webcast. Have a great rest of your day.